am so thrilled to be here today with Melinda Kahn. I just am so excited to have you back. You are a breath of fresh air. You are a voice inside of our community that is so constant and so consistent and so giving to the other standard members. They wanted to come on and just really, talk through your journey. So if it's all right with you, I'm going to dive right in. Tell me about you, just your story, I'm going to ask you about your design story as well, but just tell me who you are, where you're from, so that we can share that with everyone.
Okay. So I'm Melinda. I'm from New York, Long Island. I've lived here basically all my life. I have two beautiful daughters. They're toddlers. They're 2 and 3. They're little tornadoes, but they're definitely training to be little project managers, which is extremely cute. Married, we have our home here. It's not our forever home. My dream is to, one day build a house that I've designed. Of course, I think everyone's is. And the standard's helping me to get there. But I'm approaching 40 this year. And it seemed like it took a long time to get here. Which I think everyone eventually realizes that in life. It's like, what was I thinking in my 20s? I have no idea. And I don't even know that I was ready for it then. But I really feel like I'm in a really good place. I'm taking a ton of risks. And so far, they're all paying off really well.
Oh, amazing. Amazing. I know. I love, you post about your little girls sometimes, and I love seeing them. So cute. Adorable. So tell me, how did you find design? How did interior design come into your life?
I'm not sure. I think I've always been like a super creative person. I was always really involved in my church, in the plays, and then helping them to create the little sets and then costumes. And I was never afraid of stage. I was never afraid of just kind of being out there. So it was just a part of my personality. And kind of as I grew, I guess, more interested in it, I started to do like musicals in high school. Really at the end, I didn't even take an art class till senior year. For some reason, it was just, I was into music and I was I was a dork. So I was very into studying in school. And so I didn't really do too much creative, but I did a lot of sports. Next thing you know, design fell into my lap and I was like, oh my gosh, I love this. And then when it came to college, I followed kind of, your parents' influence a little bit, and they said, go be a teacher, you'd be a great teacher. And I'm like, I'm sure, I love being at the front and, leading and guiding, but people drive me crazy. So I'll try it. And I hated it. And when it came time to transition, I went into theater design and performance at SUNY New Paltz in New York. And I did that for, I think, 2 years. And then I transferred to New York Tech on Long Island for full interior design. And honestly, at that point in my life, that was when Jennifer Lopez came out with, all these movies, and she was a wedding planner. And I said, I'm either going to be a wedding planner or an interior designer. I think there's probably more longevity in interior design. And that's kind of really where it stemmed from. And then just out of necessity, I had to work while I was in college. And I said, you know what, I'm going to work in the field. So I would carry 2 to 3 jobs, an internship, whatever it was, and every single one was in the field. So my entire 4 years of study after already transferring colleges was dedicated to practical knowledge in things that most of the other students probably weren't interested in because it sounded really boring. And I came out basically as an asset out of college, and I could ask for what I wanted, which was awesome.
Amazing. Yeah. Getting your hands dirty, getting onto job sites, being in the field is so invaluable. Incredible that you knew that instinctively, right?
It was hard. It was I remember the first architect I worked for, he paid me minimum wage, and he had just opened his doors probably about a week before I showed up. And I just walked into his office one day because I saw he was in my town. I said, who are you? And I walked through the door and said, are you hiring? And he didn't even have a desk yet and was like, I'm just getting started. I can't pay you much. And I said, I don't care. I want to learn. And that's how it stemmed. And I started doing as-builts for him and town approvals and, basically everything that had to do with running an interior design business. And from there, I just kind of moved from one position to the other, learning as much as I could. And there you go.
Awesome. Awesome. Beautiful. It's such a great journey, seriously. And it's not uncommon for designers to have started in one career or training or schooling and then switch gears. I hear that all the time. And that's That's my story too. So it's a little bit of a longer roundabout path, but we get there, right?
We do get there. And I think it's a lot of it has to do with the passion that never really goes away. And it's something that we realize, you know, in the humdrum of life, we're like, there's got to be something more to this. And eventually we end up helping friends and we end up getting involved in local projects. And next thing you know, the fire is ignited. And then there's the typical intimidation of how do we do this? How do we make this a career? And you now have to prove it to your family and you have to prove it to everyone who's sitting there going, you know, maybe you should try something else because this is really hard. Or did you make any money? And, you know, until you get it all balanced, it's really tough. It's, I think, one of the hardest industries to break into because even with the college and the practical knowledge, I mean, it is per job. It's very different. Your scope is very different. Your expectations are very different. It's a tough career. It's what I've always said, you know, with us as women in the career, you know, they say the ceilings are glass. No, our ceilings are concrete in construction. Like it's way harder, you know. There's so many things we're fighting against on top of just wanting to enjoy what we do. So.
Oh, it's such a phrase that hits home. Our ceilings are concrete because we're out there with the builders, the architects, the clients, you know, there's a lot of, they don't necessarily understand all of what goes into what we do. So we always are educating. So that education background, I'm sure, helps.
Constantly. And, you know, it's interesting because no matter how much you say in your About Me page, how much you put it out there, you're constantly educating on the difference of why you're so valuable. You're fighting. For me, especially, I work a lot in the field. I work a lot in the beginning phases of space planning. And I'm having to prove why I'm there because every single trade is telling the client that they don't need me yet. Yeah. They don't need me at all, or they don't need me yet. And so it's just, it's tough. It's a tough road. So I've kind of worked my way around to where I'm kind of taking the lead on these projects more so I can just get through that because it's been 18 years of that, you know?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Oh, 100% of fighting for the design integrity, right? And it starts at the very beginning. You can't put a lipstick on the pig, right? No. You have to make it beautiful from the very, very beginning. No. So such a big thing. I love that. So tell me the journey from working so many jobs and hustling your booty off to going out on your own. When did you decide to do that?
You know, it's funny. When I met my husband, I think in that first year, I must have changed jobs like 4 times. And he's like, you change jobs like I change underwear. Like, what is going on with you? And, you know, it took him time to realize that, you know, I never really stayed anywhere where there wasn't a measure of respect. Or, I mean, I've worked for some really tough people. And it just hasn't been good experiences. And so I had to go. If I felt like it wasn't good, I didn't torture myself and stay there. I just left. So, and I just always was looking for better things because I never had a problem securing a job. You know, they saw that I was an asset. It was just more, I was constantly treated as a threat almost. And the way that these mostly men felt that to mitigate that threat was to make me feel like I had nowhere else to go. I basically was, you know, not really that good and just kind of put me in my place. And that whole mindset, it was really tough. And so once I started breaking into the luxury market and I'm working with these phenomenal, fantastic clients, and I started realizing there was one of my projects went into a magazine and where's my name? It's not there. What's credited is the company that I worked for. And it just smacked me in the face. And I said, wow, I'm just really tired of my blood, sweat, and tears, my time away from my family and my children going toward your name. What about my name? You know, and it was like a light bulb went off. I did try in 2014. I had the interest and the desire to go out on my own, but it was horrifying. It was terrifying. And I knew the clients, but even the position that I was introduced to them in, it wasn't a place where they could feel they can trust me to take over anything else. So my biggest obstacle when I did decide to go out on my own was how to get these clients who loved me and knew me and trusted me to now say, wait, you're on your own. You don't have the support of this big company behind you. You don't have the support of the warranty and all these things. And so all of a sudden that became the problem. But I did not care at that point. I was just like, I will never again have someone write me a check in their name to me for work that I'm doing and the tons of money that I'm making for them why can't I do it for myself? Actually, one of my clients said that to me. She asked me about my boss who I was working with, and she's like, well, how did he do it? I said, well, I know he worked at this place before. And she goes, exactly. And then how did he do it? Why can't you do that? And I just said, you're right.
Wow.
So it's been a blessing for people to see it in me. And I finally said, you know what, after all these years, whatever threat they think that I am, let me go and be it.
Right. Right. That little squish that they were trying to do to you, they can't squish you anymore. Right.
It empowered me. And, it's been a tough road. The best compliments, one of the biggest jerks I ever worked for ever gave me was, you're a powerhouse. And it was almost like he regretted it as soon as he said it.
Yeah.
Like he didn't want to give me that notion that he knew who I was. So I said, you know what, I am a powerhouse. And I just said, forget it. I'm going to go do this now on my own. And it was really hard. We'll get into that. But in the first couple of years, it was more driven by passion and
just, sometimes it's just pushing that boulder up a hill, but you have so much, and I call it the carrot and the stick, right? Like you have one person who believes in you and said, you could do that, right? It is such the carrot. It just draws you forward. And then you have the stick of all those people that didn't believe in you, that said, I will not fail. I will not let them be right, right? Exactly. And when you have both, you have a lot of gumption to go straight up that hill. You really do.
Exactly. And then the difficult part for me was these people, the clients, they were phenomenal. They're still with me. I've worked with them now for all these years, and they've watched me transition to wanting so badly to be on my own to finally being on my own with authority. And it's been quite a journey. And their support has been everything, because it's almost like they were looking for projects to do to give me work. And it was just so sweet. I've been very, very blessed. So I came to this point in my career with experience, with a hot set of clients, so that really wasn't where I needed the help. Honestly, when I came to the standard, that wasn't at all where I needed the help. It was just more figuring out, how do I turn this into a profitable business? Because at this point, I'm used to making this amount and not realizing what I was leaving on the table.
Yeah.
So it's fun to be the owner.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, tell me about some of the struggles that you were dealing with.
Well, one of the biggest ones is I had this repeat client, a set of designers, and they loved working with me, because my specialty is millwork. I've learned all these years that creating a niche for yourself is powerful, because it makes you an asset. So I'm not only an asset to a private client, I'm an asset to all the various trades. I have architects and builders and developers. They need me. They need me when they're planning this home. They don't need me to finish the space and stage it. They need me now in the funding phase. So it's been really interesting. And I had all these clients and these wonderful relationships. And then one of them actually said to me, oh, but we feel more comfortable with the company. And I said, the company? I am the company. I'm the only representation of the company you've ever known. It's me you worked with. It's me you trust. And so they didn't go with me when I went on my own. And that was a tremendous project that I feel would have shifted all the gears for me. So I think the hardest part was I had such high level clients, and now I was this little itty person on my own, and my process wasn't clear. It was very different for every person that I worked with. I was kind of clearly just desperate to work with them, and whatever they said went. I was just, please let me work with you. I want a project. I want to do this on my own. And I think maybe they picked up on that. And it started to get really frustrating. For me, I was turning around projects and drawings in 24 hours. I was going without sleep. I was doing everything that I could to try to impress them so that they would give me more work. But then I realized they're giving me more work, but I'm not being paid well for it. So I'm just doing more work for free, and I'm stressing, and I was pregnant. And I'm like, my husband's just like, can you put your phone down? And something had to give. It clicked. It was not going to be worth it. Between my family, my husband, everyone, they're used to that secure life with a paycheck every couple of weeks and retirement fund, and encouraging me to go find some security instead of this unknown that I was constantly facing. So it was a lot. It was a lot to take on. And so it had to be a decision that there was no turning back. And that was the only way. I was like going to plow forward, and I gave myself a time frame of 2 years. So I got to figure it out in 2 years. And if I don't, then I really just, I don't know, maybe I'll go teach design.
Right, right. So that work-life balance is so tricky. And it sounds like it wasn't just you who was suffering, but your family, the people around you were
Yes.
seeing it. And obviously at that point you were pregnant, right? So
Yes.
you have to shift, right? You have to take care of
Right.
yourself when you're pregnant. There's just no way around that.
Right. Because my husband, he's funny. He thought, well, you're the owner. You don't have to take that call. And I was like, no, I'm the owner. I have to take that call.
Yeah.
That's the difference. It doesn't matter when the call comes in. I have to take that call. So it was a lot of educating even my own family as to what the heck I was doing, because I left a 6-figure job. I was making 6 figures for years. I was very, very good at what I did. It didn't really matter. I worked hard. I worked in the city. I ran the showroom by myself for a couple of years in New York City. And it was great. I had no support, no marketing, and I was closing every walk-in that walked through the door. So, but I started realizing, well, if I can do it for them, why can't I do it for myself? And I had to start pooling my resources. And I had to start looking for a community. That's clearly what I was missing, because me trying to figure it out on my own was exhausting, and it was exhausting to everyone going along the journey with me. So I finally just said, there's gotta be a Facebook group or something. And so I looked up Facebook groups, and then my father's really big into podcasts, and he said, you should go look at a podcast. And I said, Dad, I can't sit there and listen to podcasts all day. Who does that? and I found Luann.
Yep.
She was the first podcast I found. And I think you were like episode 2 or 3 or something.
Yeah.
I have not listened to one after you, to be quite honest. It was like your podcast shifted everything for me. It resonated so clearly with me. And I started following your design tips. I was listening to you talk about how your business coach transformed everything for you. And I started thinking, man, maybe I should get a business coach. But I just didn't have the money. It wasn't there yet for me. So I was trying to glean as much as I could from the tidbits that you were giving out. And when you came to the city, there was a panel you were sitting on. I forget what the event was, but it was at 200 Lex, and it was a bunch of women you were up there with, other designers, and you all talked like friends. I thought it was so cute. You were friends. You talked about how you text, and you asked, where do you get this supplier, and where do you do this? And I was like, oh, because every designer that I had encountered in the city, these were these old biddies from the School of Hard Knocks that they were not sharing any secrets, and they were just trying to figure it out. And all of a sudden here you come along with your group of women, and I immediately was like following you guys. And I said, this is amazing. And we would ask you questions, and you guys actually answered honestly. And that was so refreshing. So that was why, as soon as the standard came out, I was just like, what is this? Sandra's going to tell me what? I was so excited because I trusted you. And I felt like you had been on a design journey yourself. And you weren't just talking about something that you liked. You had been through it, and you had figured out a process that actually worked. And I said, you know what? Here we go. And that's how I came to the standard. I was just really in this place of, I was desperate to know all this information that I knew was out there, but I was like, somebody's got to be willing to share it, because, you go to the interior design books and you read some blogs, and everybody just gives you a snippet, and it's not enough, because people can see the holes in your process from a mile away. I work with lawyers, and they'll send you an A to Z list with questions, and you're just like, man, this is a lot. And unless you know what the heck you're doing, clearly design wasn't my issue. Getting the clients wasn't my issue. It was managing my entire process and being profitable business. And that's why the standard came, and I was like, I don't want to hear about anything else. That's how I approach it.
And I think our stories resonate so much because, I am the second career and went through all the things. And so I think when I hear you telling that story, I'm like, oh God, it takes me back, because it was just an uphill struggle. It really was. And then I got to my breaking point where I was like, I'm going to fix this or I'm out. Like, I'm not just going to keep doing the pulling all-nighters, I would be getting my kids to bed and sneaking back downstairs to put 3 more hours of work in. And I really needed to rest, and it just wasn't happening. So I completely feel you. It's crazy, right?
It's absolutely crazy. I remember promising deadlines in the morning, and I would work the whole night and I wouldn't sleep, and I'd be up for a couple days straight. And it was stressful for me during my pregnancy. It was stressful for me after having the baby. It was just way too much, and as much as I realized, I was like, wait a minute, I am now setting this expectation that this is what they're going to get from me every time. And that was a huge mistake in the beginning. And I had to then kind of dial back with a lot of the relationships I'd already formed and let them know, no, this is how it is now. I wasn't able to do that, honestly, before the standard. I kind of was just, they steamrolled me. Whatever they needed, I did. And I sacrificed everyone around me to give it to them. And thinking what? I barely took any pictures. The portfolio doesn't exist. And
right.
Because
you're too busy. You're on to the next one. You don't have a team in place. You don't have structure, and you don't have a plan. It's really hard to slow down. Yeah.
It was pretty much a nightmare. I mean, I loved what I was doing, but it was one of those awkward feelings where you like, God, do I have to admit that I can't do this? And I'm feeling so stupid after all these years, because I said, I know after all this time, I know that I can do this. But I don't even know that taking a business course is enough. I've always said that it's not enough to just take a business course, because the design industry, there's so many nuances to it to be excellent at it, and not just be a good designer on the surface for the finished product. Right. It's that entire background. And if there's so many ways to separate a good designer from a bad designer. And I had to learn to take away the pressure of the social media and the followers and the how many pictures and where have you been published. And I had to get rid of all of that in my head, because it was really setting me back, and it made me feel quite inferior when I really shouldn't have. Because as I started to find out, talking to other designers, oh my God, they have no idea how to price. And they just worked on this tremendous project, but I don't think they made any money. And we were all in the same place, not realizing it, envying each other, and neither one of us had it figured out.
So true. So true. And also, that I love that your focus is on profitability and the clients and your business, and not necessarily on what it looks like to everyone else from the outside, because you've really created something that's solid. And like you said, your family's depending on you. They need you to be present, so not overworked. You need to have work-life balance, and they need you financially to be a contributor, right? Right. And of course, that's what you choose as well. So incredible. But yeah, we can all get caught up in what it looks like, but what's really happening inside is most important.
Right. And I was in a place where I was thinking that I was quite successful the more projects that I had. And I was like, wait a minute, but I can't handle this. I mean, no, I could handle it and I was doing it, but what I was giving up, peace of mind, it wasn't there. And, I don't think I ever doubted my journey in design, but I just started to think, man, I would feel like a fool if I had to walk away because I couldn't figure out the business side. And, what a sham I would be. Because a lot of good designers, I've seen it, they have to go back to a more secure career. We have responsibilities, especially when we have our kids and our families to deal with, as women, and we're contributors. And next thing you know, we put it to the side and it's gone. And I said, God, what if there's got to be something out there that's going to help me, figure this out rapid pace? Because I know if I could, I would tell anybody. And that's the reason you keep telling people about the standard. I'm like, of course I do, because, it's what I wish that I had in the beginning. And, I tell people, just charge it. That's what I did. Just go ahead and charge it, because you'll get it back so quickly. I said, but you just need to wrap your mind around a completely different way of approaching this business. I've had friends doing this for 20 years and I'm like, dude, but you look miserable because you're telling me that you're not profitable. How can you be not profitable after all these years? I don't want to have that story. I want to figure it out now. I don't have to have a network TV show or anything like that. That's not what the goal is, but the goal is the legacy for my children and something solid and secure. Whether or not they want to continue in the business doesn't really matter to me, but it's just knowing that I built something that's going to last.
Yeah, you sure have. Yeah. Amazing. My intention with the standard is it is what I needed when I was about 5 years in business, when I had figured out enough to know that I wasn't doing it right. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, first you just get through your first project. You just actually make some spaces look pretty. You figure out how to communicate with your clients. But I was about 5 years in and I thought, I have to figure out how to crack this code because there's a lot of money coming in that front door and there's a lot of money going out the back door and there's not a lot left for me. And I was burning the midnight oil all the time. So hence the sit down, figure it out, and then share it because I needed this so desperately. And there's no reason not to pass it along to the next person.
The funny part with my husband is he sees the revenue and he's like, yes. I'm like, the cost of goods line is below it. Just so you know. And he was like, what does he mean? And so by trying to educate him in that, my big goal is to have my husband leave his career that he's in and run like the project management side. I want to get my general contracting license. I want to build and develop and, have him run that thing. So I'm trying to slowly show him. But this was the first year, finally, that the revenue makes sense with the costs and he's just like, oh yes, no, now he's excited.
Amazing. How exciting
it is. Not for nothing, the first 2 weeks of January I collected more design fees than I did in 8 months in my first year of business, and I was just like, what's going on here now? I'm not foolish. I'm not sitting here going, this is what I'm going to get every month. I'm still trying to build up the data to know what can I really expect out of a year, out of a month, out of this, season. But it was such a great start to the year. And it's just, the momentum was there and it's been wonderful. So.
You deserve it. You've earned every bit of it. Your hard work is so evident to our entire community. You are, like I said, you're just so present with the group. Whenever someone is having a question, you are so quick to have the answer. I was going live in the group to answer questions the other day, and I said, I barely have anything to answer. You all are helping each other so beautifully, which is the dream, right?
Yes.
That it's not just one designer to a big group of designers, but then it becomes a web, and then we all are helping each other. I die. I love getting in there and seeing like somebody's like, has anyone seen this table? Who makes this table? And then somebody else is like, I need a receiver in Alaska. And then somebody else like, I need, better business insurance. Like the conversation runs the gamut. But I always love you chime in on like proper standard procedure. And I just can count on you to have it down. So the teacher in me still comes out and it's beautiful. It's so appreciated. All right. Well, we've talked through many of my questions. I'm going to zing through here and see what else I can kind of ask you. So how did you know that the standard would help? How did you know that the standard was going, like, you say charge it, it'll come back to you. What made you feel that sure?
Well, the interesting thing is, I was very excited when the standard first came out. I was extremely interested. And within like a couple of weeks of knowing about it, COVID came. And I was pregnant. I had the baby May 13th. I had Lena May 13th. So I was very, very at the end of my pregnancy. COVID was starting. I was starting to get phone calls that there was no longer access to buildings in the city and projects were having to be put on hold and we don't know what's coming. And I was just like, what's happening here? So even though I was very interested, I actually wrote to, I forget who it was. I think it was Anna. And I just said, oh, I wish, I think I have to put it on pause maybe next round. I just don't know what's going to be happening. Literally within the next 3 months, I had this one client that I was desperately trying to finish up and she ran me ragged and she did not care that I just had a baby. She did not care about anything. And I was just like, no, I can't. Nope, done. I need to know. I was fed up with not knowing how the heck to manage this process. And so when the second round came out, I was like, oh my God, I don't have to wait till next year, done, fall. And then I was able to implement it starting in January. And I right away, I didn't care if I had just worked with the client on one project a month earlier. I said, new contract. I said, this is where I'm at. And it just changed everything. And it was kind of heartbreaking at first because I started to look back at what I missed out on for the couple of years that I didn't know what I was doing. And it broke my heart because I said, if I could have just figured that out, it could have saved me a lot of stress in so many areas of my life. But it's here now, and, it is what it is. Your process, the standard was different in the beginning. You kind of like opened up the whole program, and we were able to just like dibble dabble around. And, of course I went straight to pricing because I said, oh, she's from New Jersey, so she prices just like me. And, she's in the luxury market. So I'm, whatever she uses, I'm using. And I just jumped right to that. And I kind of skipped this module and that module. And I just wanted to know, what do you price like? And, it was a huge mistake, because within trying to learn the standard, I was trying to implement pricing out of nowhere. And it was clearly like I didn't know what I was doing. So then I took another step back and I said, hold on, word for word, watching everything, whatever program she said, download it, whatever this. And I just said, oh, I know Asana, I'm so excited. And I started to go through. And once I actually took it step by step and took it seriously, that's when it just kind of really unfolded for me. And it took some time, I would say, with contractors, to kind of change up the process a little bit, especially dealing with timeframes of deliverables and all that kind of stuff. But the standard gave me the confidence to just stand in the pricing and, okay, this is my fee now, and that's it. It's a flat fee. And a lot of them were trying to talk me out of the flat fee. I don't understand. Don't you think you could make more hourly? And I was like, have I? No, I haven't. So I was like, just go along with it. This is, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I'll find somebody else to partner with. It's not a big deal. And they all kind of came along with me, and it's been great. And honestly, the first year I was playing catch up just with all the things I had done wrong the couple of years before, believe me. So it was like an okay year. The second year after the standard, holy cow, I was just like, okay, show house opportunity came up and I could do it. And it was a huge investment, $40,000, and I was able to do it. Opening up my own studio, it came to me 2 or 3 times. And finally on the third time, it's going through, it's under renovation. It's, it's going to be open, I think, in a month and a half or so. And truthfully, sitting with my accountant, I was so proud, because I said, I had the money to do this. And he's just like, oh, did you get more clients? No. Did you, and he's trying to figure out what was the difference. And I was just like, I don't know.
You're like, I'm doing it right.
Yes. And he's looking at the lines and he's just like, oh, finally, he goes, your design fees are it's a great line. And I said, I know, I was never doing that before. And I wasn't really worried about how much money there is to make in cabinetry. My entire business is cabinetry. And I didn't have that figured out before. I was in this 10% mindset that everyone had put me in, years and years and years.
Because they were taking the rest of that markup, obviously.
Yes. Yeah, but their markup was 60%. And so I was getting my little salesperson thing, and they have to make money. It's not that they can't make money, but I need more than 10%, especially when I'm doing all the work. So, and I actually learned a lesson recently with a contractor who used my pricing to kind of leverage higher pricing for his subs. And he added $40,000 on top of the project for himself. And I was just like, I'm not even making that much. And I said, okay, when it comes to you, my pricing is going to adjust. So now that I'm realizing where he's at, I'm like, okay, there's no way I'm taking on these projects being the one making the least amount of money anymore. It's not happening. It's just not fair. I'm married to these projects for sometimes a year and a half, 2 years, follow-ups, next client referral. There's no chance that I'm just going to get slapped around as the last person paid even. Is not happening. I take my money up front now. So, and thanks to you and the design fees and the way that you've structured it. So now I'm not sitting there waiting till the end, crying, going, if they complain about anything and they decide to hold back any percentage, that's coming from me. I don't have that problem anymore. It's not coming from you, the sub, because you're responsible. So,
yeah. Well, it's your punch list, right?
Yes, it's been honestly, it's been a wonderful, tremendous blessing. And so I've talked to some people who have used the standard, and they'll say they use this part of it, or they tried this part of it. And I'm just like, I'm the advocate that tells you, you can do that all you want, and you might find like, moderate level success. But if you really want to change and, take control of the business and lead it in a direction that maybe you're not even aware it can go, you really kind of just start from scratch. That's honestly the best way to do it. Have an admin switch over all the clients to the different programs and just start from scratch.
I love it. Yeah, I think it's one of those things. I know when we did this and we pulled over and we fixed everything and got and then the next round of clients that came through, I mean, it was night and day. And there was such an ease that was different between just this holding on so tight that like hoping they're not going to be upset about the time bills, hoping that they're not going to run out of money by the time it's my turn to get paid, to educating the client on everything up front. Like all of that is, I could just hear that in your conversation. Like it's just,
the design process is actually enjoyable, and it's meant to be, and it's supposed to be, and it can be for both, not just the client, not just for me, you know, and it's getting all of the money aside from they're here to spend money. We are a luxury service. They're going to spend money. This is the conversation that has to be had. So if we get it together from the beginning and there's no surprises along the way, then it's the best, most trusting, enjoyable process. And that's kind of where the standard has taken me. Because like I said, I've had these terrific clients, and just that approach is really at their level. You know, it's just a level that they can understand. It's easy, you know, and I am constantly staying updated. Every time you roll out the standard again, I will watch new modules. I will double check for things, because one of the things I recall from that day at 200 Lex when you were on the panel is I remember asking about what software program you were using for your CRM or something, and whatever you were using at the time when it came to the standard, you had changed. And I said, I like that, because it means that she's not just sold on a product because maybe she's being sponsored or maybe this. Like, no, she's using literally what's best for her business, and she's okay with changing that. So that's what, it's just another level of trust that I had with you, that I said, you know what, I'm going to give this a try. I've never heard of it. I don't know, I'll give it a try. And I've had to make small adaptations because, like I said, I do work heavily in millwork, heavily in space planning. Furnishings is like the end for me. Even though I have it, it's not the priority. So some things have had to adjust, but overall, I would say I'm like 95% in the standard.
Awesome. Yeah, so amazing. So amazing.
All these years later, and if anybody asks me about it, oh, is it true? You know, do you really like it? Was it really worth it? Those are like the number one questions. And I'm just like, yeah, glaringly, yes. I was like, if you look at my Instagram, I don't even care how many people start following me. It really doesn't matter to me anymore. But if you take a look, you know, I'm flying here to go see this client. I just closed the largest design fee I've ever gotten for a remote project.
Awesome.
I don't even got to be on site maybe 6 times for the whole year. And if it goes past the year, then we reassess the scope and reassess the fees. And I've never been in that place before, you know, and so it's wonderful. So I thank you.
Brilliant. I'm so excited for you. Congratulations. That's awesome. Beautiful.
And one day when you're in New York, I'm going to invite you to my studio.
Yes. For sure. I know. That is what I think. That's like you said, we launched in the middle of COVID, and now I'm finally like, okay, I'm going to be in High Point. I want to see my people. I'm going to be, you know, like I really do. We're over 600 designers in the standard now. And I really do want to just meet everybody. Like it's time. So,
you know, the contractor that I'm using for my studio, we're trying to build a relationship with him so that he becomes my guy, you know, and he's constantly asking, why am I doing this level of execution for my studio space when it's not my forever space? I said, well, you never know. This could be my headquarters one day. But the reality is there's a standard to everything that I do. And it's my most common phrase now that I use. And I'm just like, well, it's the standard. My process, my pricing, everything has to be in alignment. So when they walk through the door and they see an execution, it all makes sense. You know, so from start to finish, that's kind of where I'm at. So when it came to investing in this, you know, we talk to our clients about their whole investment. I had to look at it. This was the biggest investment of my life, because this is my name. This is me telling them this is what they can expect out of working with me. And, you know, not to say that I would have cut corners before, but there's just something different about coming through the standard multiple times every time it comes out. And just knowing this is me, this is my process. There is nothing less. When you speak to clients, I'm not nasty, but, you know, there's no negotiating here. We'll just talk through it. That's it.
That is right.
Never would have done that before without you. And now I'm like, all right, let's have a glass of champagne and let's toast. Are we working together or not?
Right. Yes. I love it. I think that's so amazing. Like it's kind and firm. And it is. And it's kind to be firm, because when we're wishy-washy and we stay up all night, that's not sustainable. We can't do that for any real length of time, right?
Correct.
So when we are firm, and also when you're kind and firm, the right clients stay with you, and the ones who really can't afford you or really like to push people around, so they're not thrilled with how firm you are, they wander off, because to them you're just no fun.
Right. You got to find the right clients. That's another thing that the Standard has done for me. I don't know if it's just like you attract different people, different opportunities come, and just the power to say no is life-changing. Oh, yeah. It's career changing. It means that no, now I make my schedule and I have more time with my kids than I could ever imagine. And I am at the height of my career at this stage, and I've taken one of the first risks I ever took. The major risk I ever took in my business was the Standard. And since then, it's been the show house, it's been the studio, it's been, clearing Arteriors out of their display sample sales. So now I have fully furnished studio space and Arteriors, which would never have happened. But I had to take all these risks, these timely risks, and the clients have just continued to follow and follow. And it's just been really wonderful. And I hope that for anybody who's wondering about the Standard, considering, just continue to refresh. That's probably the best thing that I could tell you, because the value in it is there. It's a little overwhelming in the beginning because you're taking a lot in and you're figuring out, how do I apply this to me? I could never charge my clients that. No, you can charge your clients that. You can't charge that client that. So you need to find the right client. So it takes time. And then once you go through it as a refresher, all of a sudden you're empowered and there's no stopping you when you're taking command, when you have these conversations with contractors. That is something when I try to help people and they're asking a lot of questions, it's because you need to be able to command this industry and not be blown around. You may work with clients and be strong with your clients and firm with your clients, but then when you're dealing with the contractors and the architects, all of a sudden, you don't know where to stand. No, the Standard remains. You are still an asset here. You belong here. And you bring a lot of value to the project, and you're like the right hand of the client. You come along with the client and that's it. You advocate for them, and we're all working toward the same goal. We all want a beautiful finish. And what I've learned for myself is my best repeat client is the trade. So it's no longer that friction and resistance of working together. It's the power and the beauty of working together. And then when they look at my paperwork and they're seeing what I'm doing, and client loves you and this and that, and they didn't fight anything, and they paid what? They agreed to that? Yeah, they did. Yeah. Without any issue, and I will say this one quick story. I have this one client who I love, who I've worked with for many years. And she said she saw this designer in a magazine. She goes, oh, I can't wait for them to, I don't know, let's say Sandrify my space. And I said, God, one day you're going to say that about my name. That's what I'm waiting for. I don't need to be in a magazine, but I want somebody to know that because I walked through the door and I'm here working on your project, that I'm worth. Because I realize now when they're not so surprised by my fee, I'm like, oh, time to increase it. Increase.
Right? No shock there. Okay. Time to consider that we may have to go up from there, right?
Yes, exactly.
That's so funny. I know my husband always says to me, if everybody says yes, then your fees are too low. Yeah. Because we hear from designers that are like, I have 100% close rate. Does that mean your fees are appropriate? Might mean that they're too low, right?
Okay. This lady I just sat with this week, she tells me, my girlfriend is a designer in LA. And she goes, I was going to call her, but I could never afford her. I'm so glad you're here. And I was like, oh, excuse me. I said, okay. So now I know that because I price by scope. So I figure this scope it's not a big space, it's not a big whatever. Now I'm like, okay, shift that mindset, because I really want to be the designer that people say that they wish they could afford. That's where I want to be operating. I don't want to just work with every single person that's available. As much as I love to just design and do work, my time is worth something. And the Standard has taught me that. My time is worth so much, and now I can actually put a number on it. So.
Amazing. And those little gifts, maybe not fun in the moment when someone says something like that to you, but you're like, right. Okay.
You lock it, and then you just know for the next one, And truthfully, her pricing came from the contractor because this is my fee with him. And so he passed it along. And I said, what did you do? I don't price that to private clients. And so he got me stuck there. Now I know, never again. Right. Yeah. But the great lesson in the standard is being able to correct and go forward and being able to walk away from a project or from a situation that isn't great, just because it's going against the process. I'm so protected in my contract, and I'm just like, if it's not right, it's not right.
Oh, I know. I love that. Right? You have to be. That's one of the biggest things is like the business has to work for you, right? It has to make you feel joyful. It has to give you work-life balance. It has to give you wonderful profitability. It cannot sink you on any one of those three factors. I think of it as like that three-legged stool, right? Right. It has to be all of that. Otherwise, change it because it's your business. There's just no reason for you to be out of balance in one of those three areas. It's just, It's time to make a shift if it starts to get out of balance. And like you said, you have to constantly be looking at that and editing and pivoting and saying, yes, I'm ready for another client. No, I'm not. Yes, I'm ready for another employee. No, I'm not. Yes, I'm ready for a studio space.
Yes, that's where I'm at right now with the employee. And I was like, I've never done that section before because I've never had employees. So now the first thing I do when I'm trying to take on one person is, hold on, I got to check the module. Before I do anything, let me check the module. Yes. So that's the way I go about it now. So please keep adding to it, add as many videos and walkthroughs and all this because we love it. There are those of us who are we're thriving on it. We want to see it grow as much as possible. And I want it, when I tell people about it, it's for a reason. And I love the little surprises, when I don't really know what you've added and all of a sudden I'm like, yes, so good.
Yeah, here's more. We love being able to do that. So yeah, always trying to think about like what other angle can we help, because everyone has different learning styles and all the things. So just try to keep moving, keep bringing. That's amazing. All right. Let me see. I'm going to see what I can do. Okay. We've covered so much, which I love. Thank you for your story. I'm going to wrap this up with I only have really one question that we haven't covered. And that is, what are your dreams and plans for the future? Like, where will Melinda Kahn go next, aside from Melinda Ng, your space?
Well, the goal is I really would like to have a retail shop. I've always wanted that, and just wonderful, beautiful sourcing, unique sourcing that I have to travel the globe for. There was a point in my life where I wanted to be an architectural writer and just travel and write for blogs and magazines about all these beautiful places. And I don't want to get away from that. And there's so much beauty in the world. So when I first started in design, I always wanted my own atelier. I wanted a working studio where you go to this space and you would see the artists and their painting. And then when they're done, it goes up on the wall. And then you have the amazing computer techie graphic guys and all these just artisan work. That's always what I've built my business and my dream around. So I'm hoping to have a little bit of that, just this wonder and creativity and this growth, and just really fueling and making sure that we don't lose sight of original work, passionate artisanal work, the same as we work in design. I don't want to just keep replicating the same space. I want to be a leader. I want to be creative, and that's why I have my custom millwork shop. I do hope to have my own cabinetry line. There's lots of big things in the works that are kind of already in the beginning phases of development. So yeah, if you would have asked me 5 years ago, I would have said, I want an HGTV show. No, not at all. Not at all anymore. Now I want something grounded, and I want something that I'm completely in control of.
Beautiful. And I love the artistic nature of it and the collaborative nature of it. I can see it. And I can see you traveling the world with those cute little babies.
Oh, yeah.
Amazing. Wonderful. Well, it has been an absolute joy to have you. You bring a great, big, beautiful light to anything you do. We can see that. And thank you. It is clear to me that those dreams and goals are just around the corner for you because of just how far you've come so fast. And what a beautiful dream and goal too. Unique, interesting, certainly well within your capabilities. So I wish you so much luck, and please keep us posted on the journey.
I will. I
will
put
be
it in my
shopping.
bio. I don't know if you saw my bio, but I said my work lounge studio is the studio that the Standard built. I credit that completely to you. I would not be there. I would not have it. It would not even be in the realm of reach without the Standard, so at least for another 10 years. So it's like you have just put me in a place, in a position where, I just feel so secure in my future, and I thank you.
It's beautiful to watch. I appreciate you so much. Seriously. Thank you. You are like the model Standard member. And I just adore that you're willing to come and share your journey with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.